it's Jessica Goose here with RealAgriculture.com, and joining me right now is Lana Shaw from the Southeast Research Farm in Saskatchewan. How are you doing, Lana?
I'm really good. Happy to be here.
Good. This is our second interview with my time at Real Agriculture. I have absolutely fallen in love with intercropping. I find it so fascinating, and we'll get to that in just a second. But you are in the same boat as me today, where it is your first time at Farm Tech. What do you think of it so far?
Yeah, it was really nice to see all the trade shows, and I just got here this morning, so I missed all of the talks from the last two days. And it sounds like that Rick Mercer's talk last night was really good.
It was a hit, yeah.
But I did see your interview from last night.
Good.
Really
I was just going to say, if you missed any of it, yourself included, you can always go to realagriculture.com. We have all the interviews up on there, especially with keynote speakers, agronomy experts, some machine guys there.
Well, it sounds like I can catch up a little bit.
You can catch up, because that's where we're going to kind of segue into now, is you might have some catching up to do, because you have been one busy bee these past couple of months. I follow you on Twitter. What's your handle again?
At Southeast_Research Farm.
Okay. If you don't already follow her, you should follow her, because especially the hashtag intercropping innovators, right?
Intercrop innovators is a good one.
Is a good one.
Apparently I'm amusing on Twitter.
You are amusing on Twitter, and just you have just been here, there, and everywhere. So whereabouts have you kind of been in these past couple weeks, couple months? What have you been talking about?
Okay, so I've been in Brandon a couple of times. I was in Kennewick, Washington. I've been in Grand Prairie twice. Wow. Actually, Fairview, but as far north as Fairview.
Yeah.
I've done the Farm Forum in Calgary, but now Farm Tech, and then the Crop Show in Saskatoon.
Wow.
And meetings in Regina. And then I've got a few more through February. I'll be at the Saskatchewan Soil Conservation meeting coming up right away on the 5th of February in Regina.
Yeah.
So lots
busy
of speaking.
And all different kind of aspects, right? Like you have places that have a lot of moisture, no moisture, maybe even no farming, right? What have you been hearing from farmers when you talk about intercropping?
Well, a lot. Sometimes I hear some interesting stories about, I remember my grandpa used to do that, and that gets interesting. And a lot of people just saying, well, I wonder what would happen if I did this and this. And, if our research farm is at Redvers, so I don't know for sure what would happen in, the Palouse in Washington or in Grand Prairie or the Peace River area. But I just think it's worth trying some things.
Always, and test plot. It never hurts.
Test plots, try lots of things. That I think it's fun, and really we just get some really cool things happening. And why not try? Yeah. So that's a message, and people have been very receptive. Obviously, not everyone is, but I'm basically delivering much the same message to vastly different audiences, even like people that are organic producers or regenerative agriculture people with a lot of livestock component, and all the way to like Farm Tech and the crop show in Saskatoon that it's much more grain oriented and not at all tending to be the organic crowd, more the opposite end of
canola,
things.
Canola, wheat,
canola. Yeah. Like going and doing this talk in Fairview where they grow canola continuously, or in the Palouse in Washington where they grow wheat fallow with a lot of tillage. This is two places where they mostly just grow one crop, but for entirely different reasons, and that it's a situation that needs to change. And they need some way to do that.
What, I guess, are some crops that you can kind of think of off the top of your head, some mixes here that do work, that you've seen some really good results? Again, like you said, a little asterisk here, you are located right near Redvers, so every farm is going to be different, but have you seen some ones that really stick out for you?
Well, the maple peas are a really nice fit for intercropping, and they're higher value than regular peas. That with a yellow mustard has been working very well, but it has been pointed out to me lately that that's potentially an allergen concern.
Okay.
So we have to go a little carefully on that, and that's going to be something for the industry to get their heads around. That's an easy one. One that I haven't worked that much really at all with yet, but people are doing quite nicely with, was a large green lentil with a flax. And low rate of flax. And they were having some success with that, but that's not one there's a lot of them I can't say something that's really broadly applicable yet. There's certain ones that I think work in certain areas, but they do need to be tested regionally. Mm-hmm. But once I always say, never underestimate the ingenuity of farmers. Once you get their imaginations going, and it kickstart them a little bit, then they start coming up with things that either their grandpa used to do, or their dad used to do, or I remember I used to mix these crops together. Yeah. And they start coming up with combinations.
Exactly. Well, that was just like Brooks and Jen White, right? Yeah. In Brandon there, he was telling me all these different combinations, and to me, I'm like, wow, like this is so cool. You can try a little bit of this, a little bit of that, and they just have little test plots, right? And that's what you encourage.
I do encourage it, and once people start, sometimes it gets a little overboard where it's like, oh, I have 12 different combinations. Yeah. Then they end up, having to narrow the list down. So that's good. It does complicate things, but as long as you're making money and having some fun at it, then it's all good.
It should be good. And like Peter Johnson says, is that there's no really such thing as a complete failure because you learn from your failures, right?
Yeah. So you fail forward.
You fail,
You by learning from your failures and trying to do it in a controlled way where you don't jump into something unknown in such a huge acres or commitment that you can't afford to have those failures.
Yeah. So you mentioned Washington. What about how receptive were they to it? Were they obviously intrigued, I would say.
It was a cropping systems conference put on by a direct seeding workshop. So the people that come to a direct seeding meeting there are already looking to do things better than the status quo, which involves a lot of tillage down there in a very dry area. So I think they were quite receptive, but so they might start growing chickpea flax down there. They're already growing chickpeas. So the idea that they could grow chickpeas with flax, reduce their fungicide use, and maybe make the crop a little more reliable was very attractive for them. Whereas in the Grand Prairie, not so much on the chickpea flax, but they might try faba beans with flax instead.
Yeah. Going forward with Plant 19 around the corner, kind of any advice to people other than maybe try a little test plot out?
Don't call me in May asking for all of your instructions because I'm going to be busy.
You're going to be busy, okay.
I will be busy.
Or anything new coming up at the research farm, maybe?
Okay, one thing I can talk about is there's going to be 5 sites of a chickpea flax trial across Saskatchewan this year.
Nice.
We've got funding through Western Grains Research Foundation and SaskFlax and Agriculture Development Fund.
Okay.
So for 3 years, 5 sites. So that's the kind of commitment that I've been just really begging for 3 or 4 years, and we finally got that. So that's a big win. And that was the same trial that we did this adopt-a-plot thing for, where we went begging to all the farmers. So now I have to figure out if we go begging to the farmers again for another thing, because that was really successful and they liked it.
Yeah, and a lot of feedback from that. So 5 plots, whereabouts? And you said it was...
5, it would be Melfort, Saskatoon, Swift Current, Indian Head, and Redvers.
Nice, and chickpea flax.
Chickpea flax,
nice. And why that combo?
It's one that we've been working on for quite a while, since 2012. And we're getting a reduction in disease and improvement in the maturity where the chickpeas don't stay so late and get frosted.
Okay.
So we can change the area of adaptation of that crop. That means maybe we can grow chickpea flax in lentil country, which changes maybe they're already growing too much lentils in a lot of places where they're growing lentils every other year. So this is maybe a way to mix it up a little bit in places that wouldn't be traditionally chickpea country.
Awesome. Well, congrats on the funding. That's a big success, I would say, for you.
Yes.
And thank you so much for swinging by the Real Ag Lounge here at FarmTech 2019.
Thank you for squeezing me in at the end of the day.
No, of course. This is awesome.